Hello, my name is Beacon Ferris. Welcome to Tapping Into His Treasures. How is everyone? I'm a little froggy today. Today's the last day of winter, 2013. It's March 19th. And we had a big snowstorm overnight, and all day today it's still snowing. And I think we have another storm coming in 2 more days. So you can just imagine what people are like, getting very impatient. And that's going to be our theme today. Patience. Excuse me. I mean, really, what can we do? We're not in charge of the weather. There's nothing we can do to change it. God is in charge of the weather. So why don't we just make the best of it? You know, I know people had to go out and drive on icy roads and cancel appointments. I had to do that myself because I was supposed to go in to get my second shot for my back, you know, the epidural. And it's quite a thing to go through, taking the steroids the night before and that morning, and you really just want to get it over with and done with. And I had to cancel everything. But you know what? I think in the big picture and the big plan, God has a reason for everything. We may never know the reasons. We just need to trust. But I think I've been just a little down physically, and I think maybe it wouldn't have been a good thing for me to go. Maybe I just needed another week of rest before I went through that again. So who knows? Just trust. And, you know, it's like, what does somebody do hibernating in their house all day? Well, you can find things to do. I put a crock pot of macaroni gravy on this morning with meatballs and all kinds of good stuff. And I baked some cookies. And I took on a project. So there's always stuff that you can do. Clean out the refrigerator. Read a book. My gosh. If you make a list, I read a list a little while ago on Facebook that somebody put down for the month of March. And there were about 36 things on that list. Things that you just don't normally think of doing because you're watching the tube or you're on the computer. But really, there are so many things that we could be doing. And when you accomplish something, it really is a lot of fun. At least I find that. So let's get to our subject of patience. You know what? When I started this a little while ago, I just wasn't feeling it. Just like last week, that last show I did. I just wasn't feeling it. And then God gave me this verse, Ephesians 4:2. And I said, okay, Lord, what does Ephesians 4:2 say? So I went there, and it reads, living as becomes you, with complete lowliness of mind, humility, and meekness, unselfishness, gentleness, mildness, with patience, there it is, with patience, bearing with one another, and making allowances because you love one another. Yeah, it's hard to make allowances for all people all the time because we don't have any patience. But He's telling us to do that. And it's good for them, and it's good for us, and it pleases God. So why don't we just make up our minds to do it and see what happens with our spiritual life and our spiritual growth when we obey the Word of God. So what does patience mean to you? To wait? Yes, it means to wait, but it doesn't necessarily mean the same thing. You can wait for something and yet not be patient. Patience means to remain inactive or in a state of repose as until something expected happens. Patience implies not getting, my word, antsy. The quality of being, as in bearing provocation, this is from the dictionary, annoyance, misfortune, or pain without complaint, loss of temper, irritation, or the like. Patience is an ability or willingness to suppress restlessness. Have you been restless lately? Well, patience helps you to suppress restlessness or annoyance when confronted with delay, to have patience with a slow learner, quiet, steady perseverance, even-tempered care, diligence. We know what patience is, but the only way to know how to learn what it is to implement it. Implement what we know about it into a situation. How many things can you think of at the top of your head dealing with the health benefits of patience. Live longer. Patience eliminates stress. Keeps our blood pressure at a safe level. By using patience, being patient, we pass on virtues to others. And so many more things. You could tell me quite a few things, I'm sure. You know, there's nothing pretty about watching someone blow a fuse, is there? There is something calming and inspiring about watching someone minister gentleness and graciousness to another person. Have you ever watched that and it really touched your heart? You don't see it very often, at least I don't. But we strive for that. We all have our stories. I used to work as a caregiver for the elderly, and the elderly are set in their ways, as you can imagine. And even before I went to work or in between the time I worked as a caregiver, you know, I was taking care of my mother when she was elderly, and so was my sister. We shared her care. And just to give you a little example, I remember when we would be out shopping or visiting, and we would go home, we'd take her home, we'd get out underneath this viaduct and take a left for a shortcut. Trust me, the shortcut saved about 10 seconds. It was just the idea in my mother's mind that it was supposed to be a shortcut, but it was no big deal to me. So some of the times I just didn't feel like taking the shortcut, and I just felt like going up to the light and taking a left and adding the dumb 10 seconds onto our trip to her house. But she could not handle that. And I know, ask me why I did it, if it's going to upset her. I only did it a couple of times, and I'm just going to show you. Elderly people are set in their ways. So if God has placed you with somebody elderly who's set in their ways, maybe it's for a purpose because God's training you. Have you ever thought about that? I'd like to give you some examples of some stories from a long, long time ago. I was a nanny for different families, and then I went on to become a caregiver for the elderly, and I did private duty. And I had some very interesting employers, people that I worked for. And some were disabled and some were partially able to do some things, and I had to help do some of the housework and help with their showers and baths and so forth. But you know how it is, or you can imagine how it is. They always find extra stuff for you to do that's not in your job description. Always, always. So there was this one lady, and I don't know what it was about her, but because I wasn't the same nationality, I wasn't the same group, you know, religious group, she just kept putting herself up on a pedestal. Maybe she never got the love from her mother. Don't ask me why, I don't know why. But she just kept putting herself on this pedestal, and as she was doing it, she kept knocking me down. Slam, bang, slam, every single day, all throughout the day. So how long do you think you could put up with that? Well, you know, I had a choice to make because I was in training for God's Army. So that's the way I looked at it. And yeah, it got to me, but every time something would get to me, I would just take it to God and ask for more of His grace to get through the next hour. And believe me, sometimes, pardon me, it wasn't even a whole hour. I would go from minute to minute. So just imagine yourself in a scenario like that. She was always right and I was always wrong. And she would be looking for stuff to pick on me about. She would pack her clothes in her closet, and there was no way, I mean, I would iron them and put them in the closet, and she would pack them so that they rubbed against each other, and when you went to get a blouse or something, it was wrinkled. So then she would have something to holler at me about because something was wrinkled. And then she would have me clean the oven. And I don't even think that was on the job description. But I would scrub and scrub and scrub with steel wool and scrub until it was perfect. And then she would brag, and people would come over and she would brag about her clean oven. I cleaned. And so that's the way it was, you know, urge to kill, but instead of killing or thinking that, you just take it to the Lord because that's what God does. He's our helper. And I have another thing written down that I did for her. Just trying to make life good between us and have some, not really a relationship per se, but just to have a good working relationship with this woman. I darned her slippers for her. I don't remember what kind of slippers. I don't think they were leather or anything like that. Maybe some kind of a heavy yarn or whatever. And I darned her slippers because there was no way she was going to pay to get them fixed, or she was going to buy a new pair of slippers. No way, Jose. So I sat there with the heavy needle, the big fat ones like you use for embroidery, and in and out, the weaves when you darn something. Well, that's what I did. And it still wasn't good enough. No matter what I did, it still wasn't good enough. And then, I forget what you call them, certain times of the year, like for Jewish people especially, Orthodox Jewish people, you can't use certain items in your kitchen. For instance, this lady had some things on the left-hand side of her kitchen and some things on the right-hand side. It could be the same item. It could be a pan. It could be a baking pan. But on certain days, you could only use the items on the left side and not the items on the right side. So if you weren't accustomed to that, it was enough to really drive you crazy. So I could have either gone crazy or kept going to God time after time after time, which I did. And I didn't come out the worse for it. I did not come out the worse for it. Because I have to say it builds character. And yeah, that was, and here's another one. On those certain days you couldn't turn on the stove or oven and you couldn't answer the phone. And what I had to laugh about was, even when all this stuff was going on, she would be watching this real suggestive garbage on TV. So do you get the two? Doing one religiously and yet watching suggestive stuff, the two didn't go together. That's the part that I have a problem with. But anyway, that's none of my business. That was between her and God. So anyway, it's no wonder, rather, what God teaches us about patience in His Word, or that He teaches us about patience in His Word. Of course He does. Psalm 37, 7-9. Be still in the presence of the Lord, and wait patiently for Him to act. Be still. Does your heart ever get to the point that it's still? Be still. Or is it racing? Is your mind racing? On purpose. Still yourself. Still your heart. Still your mind. Push out anxiety. Just be still before the Lord in His presence and wait patiently for Him to act. What does that mean to you? To me, it means I kind of would like to know if I should start packing to move, because I know, eventually maybe this year I'll be moving in His plan. And I would like to know. I kind of would like to know where He's going to take me, when it's going to happen, when I should start packing. And I would also like to know when I get there, if I'm going to have some quiet space to do my writing, because I can't go into a situation like with a multi-dwelling and expect to have quiet to write. So I need to know all these things. But He has to stop me dead in my tracks every time when I step out of His rest concerning my future. You see what I'm saying? It's so easy to, to leave that rest and to take it all upon myself. Where, what, when, why, how. But He doesn't want us to do that. Just wants us to go along for the ride, and as He brings it, opens our eyes to it, and we respond to it, And that's what He wants. Don't worry about evil people who prosper or fret about their wicked schemes. Stop being angry. Turn from your rage. Do not lose your temper. It only leads to harm, for the wicked will be destroyed. But those who trust in the Lord will possess the land. Wow. What does this mean to you about the wicked? I'll tell you what this means to me, what I just read to you. Last night somebody texted me. I didn't know who it was. This has never happened to me before. I got a text from somebody I didn't know, and they wrote something dirty. I was troubled by it initially, sure. But I had a choice. I was either going to get upset over it or I was going to let it go. What good would it have done me not to let it go? I mean, picture yourself in that scenario, if somebody did that to you. Yes, I did call the phone company this morning, but I didn't do it in anger. You know, I just called to see if there was anything they could do. And I did text the person back, which may not have been a good thing, but I did tell them that I was notifying the phone company because I didn't want them to think that they could get away with it. So we'll see what happens from here on in. But, I mean, there you go. Things like this happen to you, to all of us, all the time. But what is the sense of reacting to something like what happened to me last night? Say la vie. You know, you go with it. Psalm 40, verse 1. I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. Just reading this verse brings peace. Let me read it again. Psalm 40, verse 1. I waited patiently for the Lord. He turned to me and heard my cry. Just think about God's character. I waited patiently for the Lord. He's looking down on us. Maybe everybody around us is stressful, and he zooms in on us because we're waiting patiently, and he responds to that, and he's there. Yes, reading this verse does bring peace. Psalm 86:15. But you, O Lord, are a compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness. He wants us to imitate him. He wants us to be compassionate, gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness. When we imitate him in these virtues, it strengthens us. Isaiah 40:31. But those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Renew their strength. Did you get that part about renewing our strength? That ties in with what we discussed before. Don't run ahead of God, but wait patiently for his perfect timing. To unfold will be given strength. Hold on. Those who don't run ahead of God but wait patiently for his perfect timing to unfold, God's perfect timing to unfold, will be given strength. And that is what ties in with the other, with 40:31, about renewing their strength like eagles. Proverbs 15:18. A hot-tempered man stirs up dissension, but a patient man calms a quarrel. How many hot-tempered people can you think of? We can't even watch a TV show without seeing a hot-tempered person, can we? If there were no hot-tempered 13-year-olds, we'd not be bullying each other, bullying other 13-year-olds in school and killing them and provoking them to commit suicide. In gang members, the same thing. You can't even look at them sideways without them getting hot-tempered. We should do everything in our power not to get hot-tempered and to keep our family members and our children from getting hot-tempered. And it's not only gang members and bullies. It's all over. It's in the workplace, it's in schools, all over. You know what? We should pray in the morning against encountering hot-tempered people. And if we do, if it happens, we should really exercise faith in God's grace to give them grace rather than retaliating. That's what we should do as Christians. Romans 8:24 and 25. We were given this hope when we were saved. If we already have something, we don't need to hope for it. But if we look forward to something we don't have yet, we must wait patiently and confidently. Maybe this verse speaks to you today. Yes, we wait patiently and confidently because God's always got surprises for us as we grow in his plan on the journey. Romans 12:12. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Oh, beautiful words. Meditate on those words. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. It's not always easy to pray. Personally, I have to purpose to set some time aside to pray because it does not come naturally for me. I wish it did. I'm ashamed to say that it doesn't. Because I'm sidetracked in all kinds of different directions. So I have to, on purpose. But when I do pray, guess what happens? God moves. Every time. There's not one time that He doesn't move. Romans 15:4-5. For whatever things were written before were written for our learning. Yes. You get that? Wow. That we, through the patience and comfort of the Scriptures, might have hope. Beautiful hope. Through the patience and comfort of the Scriptures. Ask God to put this verse on your heart. Now may the God of patience and comfort, grant you to be like-minded toward one another according to Christ Jesus. Put that on your heart too. 1 Corinthians 13:4-8. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Oh my gosh, I got all these papers. How are we supposed to go from square one to square 10 in our spiritual growth if we aren't allowed to go through these teaching times? You know, there's nothing more boring than to converse with someone who has had no life experiences. They are into themselves and so boring, at least I think so. So we need to go through these things to learn and to grow so that we can converse with others and share some things, identify with people. Waiting on God. He has us to wait to teach us. He has us to wait to teach us to trust Him. He is getting our motives right and setting the stage for us to receive. Psalm 37:34, I'm not going to go there now. When we wait, the end result is better than what we expected. And I have examples, but I can't get into them, about William Carey in India. He waited and God came through 6 years later. And Habakkuk 1-2 about writing the vision down. And the vision is eager for its own time and eager for fulfillment. And just one more thing from my pastor one time. He gave this illustration of a butler working for a rich man. He says when he finishes his duties, he goes to the living room where the man is sitting and stands there and waits to be given orders. Sometimes he waits a long time. He doesn't say to his employer, hey, I'm getting tired of standing here. Can you make up your mind as to what you want me to do? My feet are getting tired. I could be doing other things. He stands there and waits patiently. That is how God wants us to be. Picture that. Picture that in God's plan, that you're waiting there the way the butler waited for the master. If we can go to that place and grow to that place, it would just be so pleasing to God and so wonderful for us too. Well, and I have a whole bunch of quotes here, but I guess I'm going to have to save them for another time. Oh, they're really good ones too. So I'm sorry, but I ran out of time, so we'll do those another time. Thank you for watching. God bless you and God bless yours. God keep you and God keep yours. Till next time. Bye-bye for now. Bye, guys.